The Galactic Covenant had ruled in peace for 12,000 cycles. Every species knew its place. Every world followed the law. Commander had served the fleet for 30 cycles, and in all that time he had never seen anything truly strange. The galaxy was mapped. The galaxy was known. There were no surprises left. That belief died on a quiet morning in the Outer Rim. Stood on the bridge of his patrol ship, watching the stars drift past the viewing window. His crew worked silently at their stations. It was a routine mission. Check the border, scan for pirates, return home, simple. Then the alarm screamed. Every light on the bridge turned red. Officers jumped from their seats, grabbed the console in front of him as the ship shook from a sudden stop. "Report," he shouted. "Commander, we have detected a vessel." The navigation officer's voice was shaking. "It is coming from the dead zone." Felt his blood turn cold. The dead zone was a wall of twisted space and deadly radiation that stretched across an entire sector. No ship could pass through it. No species had ever survived the attempt. In the ancient records, it was written that the First Council had created the dead zone themselves, but no one knew why. It was forbidden to ask. "That is impossible," said. "Nothing survives the dead zone." "The signal is real, Commander. A ship, moving slowly, it appears damaged." Stared at the screen. A small dot was crawling through the darkness, leaving the forbidden region behind. His hands began to tremble. "Move to intercept," he ordered. "All weapons ready. Do not fire unless I command." The fleet changed course. 3 warships moved toward the impossible signal, watched as the dot grew larger on his screen. Soon, he could see the shape of the vessel. It was ugly. That was his first thought. The ship was made of rough metal, covered in burns and scars. Parts of the hull had melted and frozen again. It looked like something that had crawled through fire and refused to die. "Life signs?" asked. The science officer checked her instruments twice before answering. "Yes, Commander, multiple life signs. They are alive in there." "What species?" "Unknown. They do not match any record in our database." Felt a chill run down his spine. Every species in the galaxy was recorded in the Covenant archives. Every single one. If these beings were not in the records, then they were something new. Something that had never been seen before. "Open communication," said. Static filled the bridge. Then slowly a voice came through. It was rough and tired but calm. The words made no sense at first, but the translation system worked quickly. "This is Captain of the vessel Horizon. We are peaceful explorers. Our ship is damaged. We request assistance." The bridge fell silent. Every officer stared at the speaker as if it might explode. Found his voice. "Unknown vessel, identify your species and point of origin." There was a pause, then the voice spoke again. "We are human. We come from a planet called Earth. We were caught in a spatial storm and thrown off course. We have been trying to find our way home for many cycles." Human Earth. These words meant nothing to. They were not in any language he knew. They were not in any record. "Prepare boarding parties," ordered. "I want to see these creatures myself." The docking was slow and careful. Led his soldiers through the airlock and into the damaged ship. The air inside was thick and warm. Strange smells filled his senses. He gripped his weapon. They found the crew in a large room near the center of the ship. 5 beings sat or stood around a table. They rose when entered. He stared at them. They stared back. The creatures were soft. That was the first thing he noticed. They had no shells, no scales, no armor of any kind. Their skin was smooth and thin in shades of brown and tan. They had only 2 eyes placed in the front of their faces like predators, but their bodies seemed weak. No claws, no fangs, no visible weapons. One of them stepped forward. It was tall for its kind, with short black hair and dark eyes. Its face showed no fear. "I am Captain," it said through the translator. "Thank you for responding to our signal." Did not lower his weapon. You claim to have passed through the dead zone. That is impossible. The captain looked at the others behind him. A female with long dark hair spoke. We did not have a choice. The storm threw us in. We had to survive. No one survives the dead zone, repeated. The captain smiled. It was a strange expression. We almost did not. We lost half our crew. Our ship nearly broke apart, but we kept going. We did not stop. Studied the beings. His soldiers ran medical scans and sent the data back to the ship. Within moments, his communicator buzzed with urgent messages from the science team. Commander, the science officer's voice was filled with panic. The scan results are disturbing. These beings have no natural defenses, no poison, no hard skin, no regeneration. Their bodies are fragile. They should not be able to survive anything. Looked at the humans. They stood calmly, watching him. The female was checking a small device on her wrist. An older male with gray hair was leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. They did not look afraid. They did not look worried at all. "How did you survive?" asked slowly. "You have no defenses. Your bodies are weak. The dead zone should have killed you." Captain thought for a moment. Then he said simply, "We did not give up." Did not understand. How could will alone keep someone alive? How could determination stop radiation and twisted space? It made no sense. He returned to his ship and sent an emergency message to the Covenant High Council. The words were simple, but their meaning was clear. "We have found an unknown species. They came through the dead zone. They are alive. They are not in our archives. Send help immediately." The message spread across the galaxy in hours. From the core worlds to the distant colonies, every leader, every scientist, every citizen heard the news. Something impossible had happened. Something that broke every rule they knew. Ambassador Vel received the message while reviewing trade agreements. She read it 3 times. Then she called for her ship. "Prepare for immediate departure," she ordered. "This cannot wait." As her vessel launched toward the outer rim, Vel felt something she had not felt in many cycles. Fear, true fear. Because if these beings could survive the dead zone, then the barrier had failed. And if the barrier had failed, then the old warnings might be real. The ancient records spoke of a danger sealed away long ago, a danger that must never return. Vel prayed she was wrong, but deep in her heart she knew she was not. The humans had come, and nothing would ever be the same. The station floated in the darkness between stars. It was a place for diplomacy and study, far from any planet or colony. Ambassador Vel had chosen it carefully. If these strange beings were dangerous, they would be far from anyone who could be harmed. The humans arrived under heavy guard. Warships surrounded their damaged vessel as it docked. Soldiers lined every corridor. Weapons pointed at every door. But the humans walked calmly through it all. Captain led his crew with his head held high. Behind him came the engineer, her eyes studying everything around her. Park Woo, the older soldier, watched the guards with the careful look of someone who had seen war before. Lee, the scientist, carried a small notebook and wrote in it constantly. And Jin, the doctor, smiled gently at everyone he passed. They did not seem to understand how much danger they were in. Vel watched them through a security screen. She had read every report. She had seen every scan, and nothing made sense. "They are weak," she said to herself, "so why am I afraid of them?" The examinations began the next day. The humans agreed to everything. They answered questions. They allowed medical tests. They shared their technology and their history. They hid nothing. The scientists were confused. "Their planet is a Class 12, the lead researcher reported to Vel. "High gravity, extreme temperatures. The air itself is poisonous to half the species in the galaxy. Predators exist on every land mass. Their star bombards them with harmful radiation." Vel studied the data, and they evolved there naturally. "Yes, Ambassador, they are not modified, they are not engineered, they simply survived." "How is that possible?" You said they have no natural defenses. The researcher hesitated. That is the mystery. They have no armor, no venom, no camouflage. Their healing is slow. Their senses are limited. By every measure, they should have gone extinct millions of cycles ago, but they did not. Then what keeps them alive? The researcher pulled up a new file. We found something in their biology, something unique. Their bodies produce chemicals during stress that increase their strength and speed. Their minds can block pain when survival requires it. And most disturbing of all, she paused. Continue, Vel ordered. They do not stop. When injured, they continue fighting. When exhausted, they continue moving. When faced with certain death, they continue trying. We have no word for this in our language. They call it endurance. Vel sat back in her chair. Endurance. Such a simple word for something so terrifying. On the lower levels of the station, a young translator named was assigned to the humans. She was nervous at first. Everyone was talking about these strange creatures. Some said they were monsters. Others said they were miracles. Did not know what to believe. Her first meeting was with Lee, the scientist. The human female sat in a small room, waiting patiently. When entered, Lee smiled. "Hello," she said. "You must be my translator. What is your name?" "I am." "That is a beautiful name. I am. Please sit down. I do not bite." Sat across from her. The human was small and soft-looking, with bright, curious eyes. She did not seem dangerous. "I have many questions," Lee said. "About your people, your worlds, your history. Will you help me understand?" Found herself nodding. "I will try." They talked for hours. Lee wanted to know everything. How many species were in the Covenant? How did they communicate? What did they eat? How did they raise their children? Her curiosity was endless. In return, asked her own questions. She learned that humans had only discovered space travel a few hundred cycles ago. They had no idea other life existed until the horizon was thrown across the galaxy. They were alone in their corner of the universe. "Were you not afraid," asked, "when you realized how far from home you were?" Lee thought about this. "Yes, we were terrified, but fear does not help, so we put it aside and focused on surviving. That is what humans do." "Put fear aside? How is that possible?" "We are used to it. Our history is full of fear. Disease, war, natural disasters. Every generation faces something that should destroy us, but we keep going, we adapt, we find a way." Did not fully understand, but she felt something stirring in her chest. Respect, perhaps, or wonder. Meanwhile, in the deepest archives of the station, an old being named Tal received a strange summons. Tal was an archivist, a keeper of forbidden knowledge. They had spent centuries studying records that most people did not know existed. The summons came from the High Council itself. 3 words that made Tal's heart freeze. "Check the sealed files." Tal moved through the ancient corridors alone. The forbidden vault was hidden behind 7 doors, each one protected by codes that only archivists knew. No one had entered this place in thousands of cycles. The files inside were stored in crystal containers, preserved perfectly. Tal found the one they were looking for. It was marked with a symbol they had only seen in the oldest texts, a warning symbol. Tal activated the crystal. Information flooded their mind. Images, records, testimonies, all from 10,000 cycles ago. The Dominion, that was what they called themselves, an empire that had ruled half the galaxy through fear and force. They had conquered world after world, enslaving entire species. Their soldiers had walked through fire and kept fighting. Their commanders had faced impossible odds and won. They had been unstoppable. And they had been human. Tal watched the ancient recordings with growing horror. Dominion soldiers stood in the path of weapons that should have killed them instantly. They were burned, cut, broken, and they kept coming. They did not stop. They did not surrender. They fought until their bodies could no longer move, and sometimes even then. The rebellion against the Dominion had taken centuries. Thousands of worlds had united against them. And even then, victory had only been possible because some humans had turned against their own empire. They had chosen freedom over power. The First Council had sealed the surviving Dominion forces in a pocket dimension. They had created the Dead Zone as a barrier to ensure no more humans could ever reach the galaxy, and they had erased all records of where the Dominion had come from. Earth, the humans came from Earth. Tal closed the file with shaking hands. For 10,000 cycles, the galaxy had believed the threat was gone forever. The barrier was supposed to be unbreakable. The dead zone was supposed to be eternal. But now 5 humans sat on the station, calm and friendly, asking questions about art and culture and food. 5 humans who had passed through the barrier that was meant to stop them forever. If they could do it, others could too. And if the humans of Earth ever learned what their ancestors had built. Tal contacted Ambassador Vel through a secure channel. "Ambassador," Tal said, their voice barely steady, "we need to speak immediately. There are things you must know, things that will change everything." "What kind of things?" Tal looked at the ancient crystal one more time. The warning symbol glowed in the darkness. "The barrier has failed," Tal said, "and the beings we have found are far more dangerous than anyone realizes, not because of what they are, but because of what they were." In her office, Vel felt the fear grow stronger. She had hoped she was wrong about the humans. She had hoped they were simply lost travelers, nothing more. But hope, she now understood, was not enough. The truth was coming, and it would shake the galaxy to its core. The chamber was dark except for a single light above the table. Archivist Tal sat on one side. Ambassador Vel sat on the other. Between them, the ancient crystal glowed with 10,000 cycles of buried secrets. "Show me," Vel said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were not. Tal activated the crystal. The air filled with images and sounds. Vel watched in silence as history she had never known unfolded before her eyes. She saw great ships crossing the stars. She saw armies marching across burning worlds. She saw cities falling and species screaming for mercy that never came. And she saw the soldiers, the Dominion soldiers. They looked just like the humans on the station, the same soft skin, the same forward-facing eyes, the same calm expressions even in the middle of battle. They wore armor, but beneath it, they were the same fragile-looking creatures that Vel had met days ago. But they were not fragile at all. The recording showed a battle. Dominion soldiers faced a defensive line of 3 species working together. The defenders had better weapons. They had more numbers. They had every advantage. It did not matter. The Dominion soldiers charged through weapon fire that cut them down by the dozens. They did not stop. They climbed over their own fallen. They kept coming. When their weapons ran out, they used their hands. When their hands were broken, they used their teeth. The defensive line broke. Not because the Dominion had superior technology. Not because they had a brilliant strategy. They won because they simply refused to lose. Vel felt sick. "How," she whispered, "how could anyone fight like that?" Tal's voice was heavy with old sorrow. "The archivists have studied this for generations. The humans have a unique trait. Their minds can override their bodies. They can push past pain, past exhaustion, past the point where any sane being would stop. They do not accept defeat. They do not understand surrender. They keep fighting until they win or until they are dead. But they seem so peaceful, the ones on the station." "Yes, that is what makes them so dangerous. They are not always monsters. They can be kind. They can be gentle. They can build beautiful things and create great art. But when threatened, when pushed, when given a reason to fight," Tal paused, "there is nothing in the galaxy that can stop them." Vel turned back to the recording. She watched as the Dominion expanded across star systems. World after world fell. Some surrendered immediately, hopping for mercy. Others fought and were crushed. A few tried to run, and the Dominion followed them to the edges of known space. They ruled for 3,000 cycles, Tal said. 3,000 cycles of terror. Every species in the galaxy lived under their shadow. How did they fall? They destroyed themselves. Tal changed the recording. New images appeared. The Dominion was built on conquest, but not all humans agreed with this path. Some believed in freedom, in cooperation, in peace. Vel saw humans fighting other humans. She saw Dominion soldiers turning against their own commanders. She saw rebellion spreading like fire through the Empire. A human named Park led the revolution, Tal continued. She united the enslaved species and the rebel humans together. The war lasted 200 cycles. Billions died, but in the end the Dominion fell. Park, Vel said suddenly. One of the humans on the station is named Park. A common name among them, apparently, but yes, the coincidence is uncomfortable. The final images showed the end. The remaining Dominion loyalists, trapped and surrounded, were sealed in a pocket dimension by the combined power of every species that had survived. The First Council created the Dead Zone to block the path to Earth forever, and they agreed to erase all memory of what humans were. They wanted to forget, Tal said. They believed that if no one remembered, no one would seek revenge. The galaxy could heal. And now the barrier is broken. These 5 humans say they are from Earth. If they are telling the truth, then more humans exist beyond the Dead Zone, an entire planet of them, perhaps many planets by now. Tal's voice dropped to a whisper. What happens when they find out what their ancestors did? What happens when they realize they were once masters of half the galaxy? Vel stood up and walked to the window. Outside, stars burned in the endless darkness. Somewhere out there, beyond the Dead Zone, was Earth, a world she had never heard of until days ago, a world that had given birth to both the greatest tyrants and the greatest heroes the galaxy had ever known. "What do you recommend?" she asked. "The Council is divided. Some want to destroy the humans immediately, others want to study them. A few believe we should try to make peace." "And what do you believe?" Tal was silent for a long moment. "I believe we are making the same mistake the galaxy made 10,000 cycles ago. We are judging all humans by what some of them did. The Dominion killed billions. Yes, and other humans died to stop them. The rebellion that saved the galaxy was led by humans who chose to fight their own kind. They sacrificed everything for people who were not even their species." Tal stood and moved to stand beside Vel. "These 5 humans have done nothing wrong. They are lost travelers. They have answered every question. They have cooperated with every request. If we kill them for crimes their ancestors committed, are we any better than the Dominion?" Vel had no answer. The next day, she visited the humans herself. They were kept in comfortable rooms, but there were guards at every door. They were prisoners in everything but name. Captain received her with a polite bow. "Ambassador, thank you for seeing us." Vel studied him. He looked tired. There were shadows under his eyes and lines on his face that had not been there before, but his gaze was steady. "Do you know why you are here?" she asked. "We are being studied. We understand. We are strange to you as you are strange to us." "It is more than that." Vel hesitated. She had been ordered not to reveal what the archives contained. But looking at this human, this tired and worried traveler, she felt the lies stick in her throat. "Your ancestors," she said slowly, "visited this galaxy before, long ago." Frowned. "That is impossible. We only discovered space travel recently. We have no records of previous contact." "The records were erased, by both sides apparently." Vel took a deep breath. "Your ancestors built an empire here, a terrible empire. They conquered and enslaved half the galaxy." The human's face went pale. Behind him, the others had stopped what they were doing. They were all listening now. "That cannot be true," said. "We would know. Someone would have recorded it." "It was 10,000 cycles ago, Much can be forgotten in that time. Vel looked at each of them in turn. The empire fell. Your ancestors were sealed away. The barrier you passed through was created to ensure no more humans could ever reach us. Silence filled the room. The humans looked at each other with expressions Vel could not read. Then Park Wu stepped forward. The old soldier's face was hard. If what you say is true, then I understand your fear, but we are not our ancestors. I have spent my life protecting people, not conquering them. Whatever happened 10,000 cycles ago, it was not us. I believe you, Vel said quietly, but I am not sure the council will. What will happen to us? Vel did not answer. She did not need to. The fear in the room said everything. As she left, she passed in the corridor. The young translator was carrying food for the humans. Her eyes were red, as if she had been crying. Ambassador said, "Is it true, what they are saying about the humans?" "Which part?" "That they will be executed, that the council has already decided." Vel stopped. She looked back at the door where 5 lost travelers waited to learn their fate. 5 people who had done nothing wrong except be born to the wrong species. "Nothing is decided yet," she said, but even as she spoke, she knew it was a lie. The galaxy was afraid, and when the galaxy was afraid, it did terrible things. The question was whether anyone would be brave enough to stop it. The news spread like poison through water. Someone leaked the ancient records. Within days, every world in the Covenant knew the truth about humans. Panic followed. On distant colonies, people demanded protection. Old weapons were pulled from storage. Ships that had not flown in centuries were repaired and armed. Neighbors who had lived in peace for generations began to eye each other with suspicion, wondering who might side with the humans when they came. Because everyone believed they would come. An entire planet of these creatures existed beyond the dead zone. If 5 of them could survive the crossing, more would follow. It was only a matter of time. The council met in emergency session. Arguments filled the great hall for days. Some representatives demanded immediate action. Destroy the humans on the station. Send a fleet to seal the dead zone permanently. Do whatever was necessary to protect the galaxy. Others urged caution. The humans had done nothing wrong. Punishing them for ancient crimes was unjust. And if humans on Earth ever learned that the Covenant had killed their people without cause, the consequences could be catastrophic. Ambassador Vel listened to both sides and felt her heart breaking. On the station, the humans noticed the change immediately. Guards who had been curious became cold and hostile. Food deliveries were reduced. The comfortable rooms began to feel like prison cells. Park Wu recognized the signs. He had seen this before in human history. When people were afraid, they looked for someone to blame. They looked for someone to punish. The humans on this station were perfect targets. He gathered the crew in Captain's room. They stood in a circle, 5 tired faces in a hostile universe. "They are going to kill us," Park Wu said bluntly. "I have seen this pattern before. Fear turns to hatred. Hatred turns to violence. It is only a matter of time." "We have done nothing wrong," Li protested. "We answered all their questions. We cooperated with everything." "It does not matter. We are not being judged for what we have done. We are being judged for what our ancestors did 10,000 years ago." Leaned against the wall, her arms crossed. "So what do? Fight our way out? We have no weapons, no ship. We are surrounded by an entire galaxy that wants us dead." "We cannot fight," said quietly. "Even if we could escape, where would we go? The dead zone nearly killed us. We cannot survive another crossing." Jin had been silent until now. The doctor stood by the window looking out at the stars. When he spoke, his voice was calm. "Then we show them who we really are." Everyone turned to look at him. "They are afraid of us because of what humans did long ago," Jin continued. "Conquerors, tyrants, monsters, but that is not what we are. We are survivors, we are healers, we are builders." He turned to face his crew. If we are going to die, let us die proving that humans can be better than their worst moments. Park Woo nodded slowly. The doctor is right. We cannot change what our ancestors did, but we can show these people what humans have become. The next morning, something strange happened on the station. A Covenant cruiser had limped into the docking bay during the night. Its engine core was damaged, and the repair teams were struggling to fix it. The ship carried medical supplies for 3 colony worlds. If it could not fly, people would suffer. Watched the repair teams through her window. She could see the problem from where she stood. The technicians were approaching it wrong. They were trying to fix the damage when they should be routing around it. She asked to speak to the station commander. He refused. She asked again. He refused again. So she found another way. That night bypassed the lock on her door. It was not difficult. She had been repairing machines since she was a child. A simple electronic lock was nothing compared to the damage the Horizon had suffered in the dead zone. She walked through the empty corridors until she reached the docking bay. The cruiser sat in the darkness, abandoned for the night. She climbed inside and went to work. It took her 8 hours. She did not eat, she did not rest. Her hands bled from working with sharp metal. Her eyes burned from exhaustion, but she kept going. When the morning shift arrived, they found the engine repaired, better than repaired, had improved the power flow by 20%. The ship could fly again. She was sitting on the floor beside it, barely conscious. The repair team stood around her in stunned silence. "It is what we do," she said with a weak smile. "We fix things." Word of her action spread through the station. Some dismissed it as a trick. Others were confused. Why would a prisoner help the people who might kill her? But a few began to wonder if they had judged the humans too quickly. The next day, Jin asked to help in the station's medical center. There had been an accident in one of the lower sections. Several workers were injured. The medical staff was overwhelmed. The station commander wanted to refuse, but he was running out of options. He allowed the human doctor to assist, under heavy guard. Jin worked alongside the alien doctors for 12 hours. He learned their techniques quickly. He taught them a few of his own. When a patient went into shock and the alien staff panicked, Jin stayed calm. He talked them through the crisis. He saved the patient's life. When it was over, one of the alien doctors approached him. "You help people who fear you," she said, "who might kill you. Why?" Jin cleaned his hands slowly. "Because they needed help. That is enough reason. Even if they do not deserve it. Everyone deserves help. Everyone deserves a chance." He looked at her with tired but kind eyes. "That is what my people believe, at least the best of us." These small acts did not change everything. The fear was still there. The council was still debating execution, but cracks were appearing in the wall of hatred. Visited Lee every day now. They talked for hours about their different worlds. Lee spoke of Earth's oceans and mountains, its cities and forests, shared stories of the Covenant's 1,000 worlds. They found that despite all their differences, they laughed at the same things. They worried about the same things. They hoped for the same things. One evening brought terrible news. "The council has voted," she said, her voice breaking. "They have decided you will be executed at dawn." Lee felt her heart stop. She had known this was possible. She had prepared herself for it. But hearing the words spoken aloud made it suddenly real. "I see," she said quietly. Was crying now. "I tried to speak for you. I told them you were good people, but they would not listen. They are too afraid." Lee reached out and took his hand. "Do not blame yourself. You did everything you could. It is not fair. You have done nothing wrong. Many people in history have died for things they did not do." Lee squeezed her hand gently. "But I am glad I met you. Whatever happens tomorrow, I will not forget the kindness you showed me." In his room, Captain received the same news. He stood by his window for a long time, looking at the stars. Then he called his crew together one last time. "We have been given a death sentence," he said, "but we have a few hours left, and I have an idea." He explained his plan. It was dangerous. It might not work, but it was the only chance they had. The humans looked at each other. Then, one by one, they nodded. They would not die quietly. They would make their voices heard. And maybe, just maybe, they would change the galaxy's mind. The station was quiet in the hours before dawn. Guards patrolled the corridors with heavy weapons. The execution chamber was being prepared. Everything was in place. No one expected what came next. Made her choice in the darkness of her quarters. She had served the Covenant her entire life. She had followed orders. She had done what was expected. But tonight, following orders meant watching innocent people die. She could not do it. She moved through the station using maintenance passages that few people knew existed. Her hands shook as she bypassed security locks. Her heart pounded so loud she was sure someone would hear, but she kept moving. The humans were waiting when she arrived. They had not slept. Their faces were tired but determined. "You came," Lee said. "I had to," looked at each of them in turn. "I cannot save you, but I can give you a chance to speak, to be heard." Captain nodded. "That is all we ask." They followed through the hidden passages. The station's communication center was 3 levels up, past dozens of guards and security checkpoints. It should have been impossible to reach. But it spent the past days mapping every system on the station. She knew where the power lines ran. She knew where the security cameras had blind spots. She knew which doors had weak locks. One by one, they bypassed the obstacles, disabled alarms. Park Woo took down guards silently, knocking them unconscious without permanent harm. Jin treated anyone who was injured, even the guards who had held them prisoner. When they finally reached the communication center, the main operator was alone at his station. He turned and saw 5 humans standing behind him. His hand moved toward the alarm. "Please," said quietly, "we do not want to hurt anyone, we just want to talk." The operator hesitated. He had heard about these humans. He had heard about the engineer who fixed the cruiser, the doctor who saved lives, the scientist who treated everyone with kindness. He had also heard about the Dominion, the monsters from ancient history. He looked at the beings in front of him. They did not look like monsters. They looked exhausted and sad and afraid. His hand moved away from the alarm. "What do you want to say?" he asked. "Stepped forward. Open a channel to every world in the Covenant. I want everyone to hear this." The operator's eyes went wide. That is impossible. The Council would never allow." "The Council is going to kill us in a few hours. We have nothing to lose." His voice was gentle but firm. "Please, give us this chance." The operator looked at. She nodded slightly. His fingers moved across the controls. Channel open, broadcasting to all Covenant frequencies. Stood in front of the main screen. He could see his own face reflected back at him, broadcast to 1 billion worlds. He took a deep breath. "My name is. I am the captain of the human vessel Horizon. I am speaking to every citizen of the Galactic Covenant." Across the galaxy, screens flickered to life. In homes and ships and stations, billions of beings stopped what they were doing. The face of a human looked back at them, not a recording from ancient history, a living being speaking to them now. "I know what you think we are," continued. "You think we are monsters. You think we are the Dominion reborn. You think we have come to conquer your worlds and enslave your people. I understand your fear. I have seen the records of what our ancestors did. I know the pain they caused." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "But we are not them. We are their descendants, yes. We carry their blood, but we have had 10,000 years to grow, 10,000 years to learn from our mistakes. Our ancestors built an empire on fear and conquest. We built democracies. We wrote laws to protect the weak from the strong. We chose peace, even when war would have been easier." In the council chamber, representatives watched in stunned silence. No one had authorized this broadcast. No one knew how to stop it. "We are not here to conquer," you said. "We are here because we were lost. Our ship was thrown across the universe by forces we did not understand. We survived the dead zone because that is what humans do. We survive. We endure. We keep going even when everything tells us to stop." Park Woo stepped forward to stand beside his captain. His voice was rough with emotion. "I have spent my life as a soldier. I have seen the worst that humans can do. I have also seen the best. We are capable of terrible things, but we are also capable of great kindness, great sacrifice, great love. The Dominion fell not because of outside forces, but because humans themselves rose up against it. Humans chose freedom over power. That is who we are." Spoke next. "I fixed your cruiser not because I wanted something in return. I fixed it because people needed help. That ship carries medicine to your colonies. Your people would have suffered if it could not fly. How could I stand by and do nothing?" Jin added, "I healed your wounded not to prove a point. I healed them because they were in pain. Every life has value. Every being deserves care. That is what I believe." Lee was the last to speak. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice was steady. "I have made a friend here. Her name is, she is different from me in almost every way. Different body, different world, different history, but we understand each other. We care about each other. Is that not proof that humans and your people can live together in peace?" She looked directly into the camera. "If you kill us, you will not be protecting yourselves from monsters. You will be becoming the thing you fear. The Dominion ruled through fear. If you let fear control you now, then they have already won." Stepped forward one final time. "We cannot change what our ancestors did. We can only choose what we will do, and we choose peace. We choose cooperation. We choose hope. If that is not enough for you, then we will accept your judgment. But we will die knowing that we told the truth, that we showed you who humans really are." The broadcast ended. Silence filled the communication center. Then the station's alarms began to sound. Security teams were coming. Grabbed Lee's hand. "We need to go, we need to hide." "No," said calmly. "Running will not help. We have said what we needed to say. Now we wait and see if anyone was listening." They stood together in the center of the room as guards poured in. Weapons were raised. Shouts filled the air. But no one fired. Commander pushed through the crowd. He had watched the broadcast from his ship. He had seen the humans speak, and he had heard something in their words that he recognized. Truth. He stood before the execution squad. Slowly, deliberately, he lowered his own weapon. "I have read the archives," he said. "I know what the Dominion was, but I also know how it fell. Humans turned against it. Humans fought their own people to free the galaxy. If these humans are anything like those," he looked at with something almost like respect, "they might be the best allies we have ever had." One by one, other guards lowered their weapons. Not all of them, but enough. On worlds across the galaxy, people were talking. The broadcast had spread everywhere. Some were still afraid. Some demanded death, but others were asking questions they had never asked before. Were all humans monsters, or just some of them? Could the children be blamed for the sins of their ancestors? Was fear a good enough reason to kill? In the council chamber, Ambassador Vell stood to address her colleagues. "We have a choice to make," she said. "We can let our fear control us. We can kill these humans and hope that no more ever come, or we can be better than our fear. We can give them a chance. We can learn from them and let them learn from us." She looked around the chamber at faces filled with doubt and confusion, and in some cases, hope. The Dominion fell because some humans chose to be better than their worst impulses. Today, we have the same choice. What kind of galaxy do we want to be? The vote took hours. Arguments raged back and forth. But in the end, by the narrowest of margins, the execution was canceled. The humans would live, for now. When heard the news, He closed his eyes and let out a breath he had been holding for what felt like forever. They had survived again, against all odds, against an entire galaxy's fear. Now the real work could begin.